No, I just thought Penelope was too hot for Colin.
Welcome to Less Than a Day. Don't ask us to explain the name. We're not going to. I'm Kay,
I'm Kiko.
and we're here to talk about books, movies, TV shows, geeky things. Major spoiler warnings for primarily just one show this week, but spoiler warnings for all media anyway. Whether it's all accurate, I don't know. Probably not, but spoilers incoming. So, usually we kick things off with our current events where we catch each other up on what we've been watching. But this is another one of those episodes where we've been watching the exact same thing along with millions of other fans of Spice online.
Look, I don't want to classify myself as a fan of Spice. It just happens to be there.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to look for it, you know? I'm not looking for it. They make me so uncomfy. I feel like they make me so uncomfy. I turn away whenever we watch things.
That's because you're weak. But we're talking about
I am.
We're talking about Bridgerton this week. We mentioned it a couple times, I think, in some of the earlier episodes. Definitely, I think, in our romance episode. But Bridgerton.
There's just so much to unpack
Yeah.
here. I mean, people may not think so, but especially season 3, there's so much to unpack.
Yeah, so season 3, part 1 released in May, and part 2 released last week-ish. So it's all real fresh in our minds. But for our audience who's never heard of Bridgerton or kind of heard of it but doesn't care enough to look up what it is, Kiko, you want to give us a summary?
Yeah. Bridgerton is set in the early 1800s London, following primarily the 8 children of wealthy and noble Bridgerton family. Each season is about the romantic relationship of one of the siblings. The first season follows Daphne and her marriage to the Duke of Hastings. The second follows Anthony and his marriage to the icon Kate Sharma. And the third season follows the Bridgerton sibling Colin and his relationship with Penelope Featherington, his sister Eloise's best friend and neighbor. In the background of the story, the events are being reported in a gossip column written by the anonymous Lady Whistledown, who the queen is trying to unmask. So, the season 3 summary, which is Colin and Penelope, who we will probably be referring to as Paulin a lot, because it's just a mouthful.
It's better than Canthony, but I don't love Paulin.
I just think it's funny because the father Bridgerton, died because of a bee sting because he was allergic. And so Paulin is just...
Which, by the way, what a way to go. Not because people don't die of bee stings, but for context, they spend every summer in the country and they have this like huge estate that's covered in plants and stuff. You're telling me this man survived until his oldest son was 19 and hasn't been stung by a bee up until this point? Explain that to me.
He was just swerving them. You know, honestly, I know nothing about the dad, but he's kind of awesome just for that. For surviving that long with an estate and a house filled with flowers.
The only thing I know about the dad is that the actor who plays him played the White Lighter in the new Charmed reboot. That's it.
Okay, so our season 3 summary, and this summary is it's almost purely about Penelope and Colin. In the first half of the season, we follow Penelope dealing with the aftermath of season 2. We found out at the end of season 1 that she was Lady Whistledown, and by the end of season 2, Eloise had discovered that secret and ended their relationship. Penelope realized she needs to get married to someone to continue her career safely and enlist Colin for the help of learning to be charming. Colin obviously doesn't know about Lady Whistledown, that Penelope's like Lady Whistledown. He ends up falling in love with her instead, and after a steamy scene in a carriage, proposes to her at the end of episode 4, and that's the end of the first half. The second half of the season follows Penelope struggling to tell Colin about her identity and his eventual discovery. They still get married, but Colin is opposed to her being Lady Whistledown. The season ends with Penelope revealing her identity to the Ton, or
society, basically.
To society, yeah. Let's be real. The only people who care about this and who are really in the show are like the upper class society.
Yep.
So the season ends with Penelope revealing her identity to the Ton after being blackmailed. She decides to continue her column under her own name and with Colin's support. So that is just honestly, the briefest summary.
Yeah.
The thing about season 3 is that it was so much more plot heavy than season 1 and 2. And honestly, I don't think we could have even gotten an episode out of it without season 3. Because not a lot happens in terms of plot and content in season 1 and 2. They're just primarily about relationships.
Well, I mean, a lot happens. Yeah, a lot happens, but I don't think that it's as I don't think season 1 and 2 they like drop little hints of things coming up, but season 3 really feels like it focuses on the sort of overarching plot of the whole show more than it does the relationship like season 1 and 2 does.
I feel like season 3 is almost, I don't know about the rest of the siblings or whatever, or the plot of the books, but it feels almost like the climax.
Yeah, it does. To the point where I'm honestly surprised, and this is something that I've kind of been seeing people discussing online, why they decided to do this season so early. Because the Colin book is the 4th book in the series. I forget which one. I think Francesca's. No. It's not Francesca's book. Somebody else's book. Oh, it's Benedict's book. It comes out before Colin's book. So a lot of people were like, why did we jump straight to Colin, especially with the Lady Whistledown reveal? It's like, how are we moving on from this point? And what's going to happen to our icon, Julie Andrews?
Well, Julie Andrews is gone now because at the end, so it was narrated by Julie Andrews, right? Lady Whistledown, the entirety of the show. And in like the last line of the show or whatever, it's narrated by Penelope in her own voice, in like the actress's voice.
And in an interview, the showrunner or the writer, somebody said that like they actually don't even know if they're gonna have just Penelope read all of them from now on, or if they're gonna do like half and half, or like since it's still Lady Whistledown, is it still gonna be Julie Andrews? They don't know either.
Yeah, but I feel like it was completely expected, especially since Penelope started writing under her own name, that the voice would change. It just makes sense for the character.
Okay, so overall impressions of season 3.
You go first. I talked quite a bit.
I think that, so I will say this. After I watched the season, I went and I read the books. And not all of them, just the Colin one, because I read the first book, The Duke and I, after season 1 came out, and I kind of hated it with every fiber of my being. So I promised that I would never read any of the Bridgerton books. But when I first watched season 3 without having read the book, I really did not like it. It kind of it definitely feels disjointed. I think that they made a mistake by splitting it into part 1 and part 2. I think that was Netflix's sort of like ploy to get people to pay for 2-month subscription. So the story feels incredibly disjointed to me. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, felt like one of those shows that do like a part A and a part B.
Yeah.
Like they purposely make it seem like 2 different sort of stories. But Bridgerton, they intended for that season to be cohesive, right? They just, I feel like they just split it in the middle just so.
I don't know if they knew that that's what was going to happen. I'm sure Netflix probably told them early on that we want you to do part 1 and part 2 or something. But the way that it was written, there's so much going on that it kind of feels very, very disjointed, very like incomplete, with characters straight up going complete personality changes from point 1 to 2. Yeah, I really think it suffered from that. I think honestly that might be my biggest criticism of it, is just there's something up with the writing, man. That being said, for me, I think that season 3 is, including Queen Charlotte, I think it ranks the lowest. I didn't dislike it, but I just don't think it was as good as the other seasons.
Yeah, that is interesting to me, because my ranking from worst to, I wouldn't say the best, but most liked, I guess. Worst would be season 1. Season 1 does not happen canonically for me, and I've said that a couple times now.
You're so wrong for that.
Then it would be the first part of season 3, because there are 2 different seasons to me. Season 3, part 1 and 2 are 2 different seasons to me. And then it would be, I liked season 2, but it's just that so much more happens in season 3. A lot of it's like not great. It's just more interesting to me. So I think I would say season 2 and then season 3 part 2.
And then Charlotte is just the best, or?
I haven't watched Charlotte.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
I know I am, but I don't like prequels and I know what's going to happen and
It's
it's sad.
not
So
sad because you know I hate a sad ending, but
I know the show isn't sad, but I would feel a little sad just watching it knowing what happened.
okay, that's fair. I do think actually if we're ranking the seasons, Charlotte for me is almost better than regular Bridgerton, just because I think that like so much happens, the stakes are much higher, and I think the romance is by far the best of all of the seasons so far. I do have to say, for me, I still think season two is the best. I was like, I would probably tie Charlotte in season two, but that's just because I love Kate. I'm sorry, I just do. Back to talking about season three though. I will say that my overall impression of the season did change after reading the book because the book was not great. I really felt like so much happened in season three, and absolutely nothing happens in the book. So season three really doesn't feel like Colin's story at all. It really feels like Penelope's story, and Colin is kind of an afterthought. And I'm okay with that because going into the season, I kind of expected to dislike it because I have never vibed with Colin as a character. Like, he's always felt kind of boring to me.
Yeah, same. And I think a lot of people have that opinion too.
And my opinion of him as a character did change significantly after reading his book character. So I don't think he's my favorite character in the whole series, but I do like him. He's kind of sweet.
Yeah, Colin is sweet and he didn't break off the engagement or the wedding or make like a big fuss about it to his family when he discovered that Penelope was Whistledown, even though he hated Whistledown, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was completely reasonable. He asked Penelope to stop being Whistledown, and that's 100% reasonable. But I also do understand Penelope's want of wanting to stay as Whistledown.
Right, because it's kind of like part of her.
Yeah, it's something she created for herself and it's something she's passionate about and it would suck to give that up. So I get it. But I also get that her identity as Whistledown has hurt Colin and his family. So
Okay, did you feel like him accepting her as Whistledown was warranted? Do you think it was a little bit too fast, or do you think that it did enough to build up?
I felt it was a little too fast. But the thing is, season 3, part 2 was just so, they had so much to do and resolve in such little time. And so like I get why they made it get resolved so fast, but it did feel a little quick.
Yeah, I wonder. So in the book, he discovers she's Whistledown, and it's on the drive back, like from her publisher, that the carriage scene happens, and then he proposes. So I wonder if he had discovered in episode 4 and then spent the entirety of the second half like sort of grappling with the Whistledown thing, if that would have been less quick, I guess.
Yeah, but I think they wanted to add a lot of sweet scenes between Colin and Penelope,
Mhm.
and you can't have that with that conflict brewing.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really even sure how I would if I could change it. I'm not sure how I would, except for yeah, they just did not have enough time. I think what they needed to do was cut out some plot lines.
Yeah,
If they had cut out some plot lines and then focused more on Colin and Penelope, I think their love story would have been a bit better.
yeah, there were definitely so many plot lines and scenes that just didn't need to exist. It didn't need to. Okay, I have stuff to say on that, but we're not there yet. I'm.
I mean, we can be there. So talking about some of these plot lines, I know one really big one that was a change this season was that Eloise befriended Cressida Cowper in the in between time between seasons. And they talked a lot about Cressida this season, which is very interesting to me because up until now she's kind of been the generic mean girl, but they developed her character a little bit more and gave a little bit of an explanation as to why she is the way she is, only to destroy it, I think, in part 2 a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of thought that Cresta is. kind of like a foil for Penelope because ultimately Penelope gets what she wants. And then Cresta, complete opposite. So, and Penelope's like the victim and Cresta is the bully. Right. We should talk about who Cresta is. So there's a lady named Cresta Cowper who is Penelope's bully. And after Penelope and Eloise stop being friends, Eloise befriends Cressida.
Yeah, and Cressida becomes relevant to the story as she's the one who blackmails Penelope, like, pay me or I'm going to tell everybody you're Lady Whistledown, because she figures it out. Which, by the way, her figuring out that it was Penelope, I think was incredibly stupid because she figured it out by talking to one of the printers. And it's like the queen put so much effort into finding Lady Whistledown, and you're telling me this girl just did it by accident? I don't know.
Yeah. Krishna isn't smart enough to like I'm not saying she's just not smart enough in that way to figure it out. Like sort of put together that Penelope is Whistledown.
Yeah, the way the book describes her is she's smart but not clever. And I think that's kind of accurate. She's not stupid, but she's not really like cunning or manipulative in that way.
I mean, she's pretty manipulative, but she's not manipulative in the smart way.
Mm-hmm.
She just manipulates. She's not manipulative in like as an adjective.
Yeah.
She manipulates like the verb is what I mean to say. Yeah.
I think it maybe would have been better if she just like overheard a conversation. I think that would have made more sense than her talking to like the printer and then putting it together. But I think the problem then would have been like, oh, you don't have proof. So
Yeah. Also, I did want to talk about Cresta as a character too, because I feel like she was kind of a main character in this season too.
yeah, for sure.
So I just want to like briefly talk about who she is, what backstory we get about her. So basically, Cresta is under a lot of pressure by her family, especially her father, who really, he's a horrible father. He's trying to get her married off to a crusty, dusty old man. And Cresta obviously doesn't want that. And so she wants to find a match for herself. But Penelope, when she's deciding she needs to get married, pursues the same man that Cresta sets her eyes on. And Penelope actually catches the attention of that guy, takes it away from Cressida. And then that guy sees that Penelope's in love with Colin and the guy leaves for wherever. And Cresta is left in the trenches. And so that's when she decides to say she reveals herself at Colin's and Penelope's engagement party that she is Whistledown. And that comes with a whole new set of problems. But also, I just want to say that this is when I like didn't really like Cresta before. But when she does this, I'm like, I kind of like her because she solves all of the problems, right? Her announcing herself as Whistledown solves Penelope's and Eloise's problems in that Eloise tells Penelope to tell Colin that she's Whistledown, but ultimately decides she doesn't want that to happen because she doesn't want Colin to be her. And Penelope obviously doesn't want Colin to find out. But then they have like a little freak out when Cresta starts writing as Whistledown for some reason. And I just don't understand why they freaked out so much. What was the problem?
Okay. The problem was that because it was her mom writing, Eloise was afraid that Cressida was going to start writing bad things about the Bridgerton family. Because up until that point...
Yeah, but the thing is, so what? You know, like,
Well, because Whistledown has power, right, over the top. Like, what she says, people listen to. So they were worried that she was going to destroy, like, their standing. But I honestly think it makes more sense. In the book, the problem is that Penelope is like, we can have anybody else pretend to be Whistledown. One of her plans was to get Lady Danbury to pretend that she was Lady Whistledown, right? But she's like, it can be anybody but Cressida because Cressida has been so terrible and bullied her, sometimes physically bullied her. So she doesn't want to give up her life's work to Cressida. And to that, I think makes a little bit more sense. But I mean, we do see it in the show. They try to justify it by her publishing her first page as Lady Whistledown, basically trashing the Bridgertons, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it just has to do with Penelope hating Cressida as a person.
Yeah, I mean, which I get. And I do feel bad for Cresta with the situation she's in. But at the same time, it does not justify her bullying Penelope and just being honestly pretty mean. And the thing is with Eloise and Cressida's relationship too, Cressida, I'm pretty like she genuinely likes Eloise and genuinely likes her as a friend. But Eloise could give less of a
Sure.
about Cressida. She cast Cressida aside easily.
I think that honestly part of it is like this bizarre character assassination that happens with Cressida. And it's one of the reasons that I felt like part one and part two were so incongruous is because
Mm-hmm.
in part one, they're building Cressida up to be this sort of sympathetic person. Like, oh, you are
Yeah.
a bully, but we can see why you're being pushed to where you are. And Eloise is kind of helping you realize this about yourself. And you see Cressida sort of changing as a character just for them to turn around in part two and then make her just like a villain again. And she honestly gets one of the worst endings.
Yeah, they make her a villain and they make her a loser at the end.
Yeah. And it's another common criticism that I'm seeing online of season three is that Eloise so easily throws Cressida away because the plot demands it and because she needs to forgive Penelope. She just decides that I'm done with Cressida instead of trying to understand that from her point of view. She is lying to be Lady Whistledown because her alternative is to marry a guy 3 times her age.
Yeah, and even after that, she escapes that problem because when she announces herself as Whistledown, obviously no one wants to marry her. But then her dad's sister, her aunt, who pretty much has the same personality as her dad, is coming to take her away. And so she needs to escape that too. And so she needs money for that. And so that's why she blackmails.
Eloise does not even try to understand. And honestly, this is people are saying it's uncharacteristic of Eloise, but for me, Eloise was one of my least favorite characters, especially starting from season two, because
Yeah, yeah.
despite her struggle being so real of like of wanting to do more but being stuck in this sort of marriage circuit because she is a woman, and that being a honestly inspiring story on its own, she's always been my least favorite characters just because of how self-centered she is. It's
Yeah,
wild
yeah.
that in season one, Penelope is very obviously dealing with her problems and like is going through it with like the Marina and Colin thing. And Eloise does not give a shit that Penelope is not feeling great. In season two, she does not put together that she's Whistledown until the very end because she isn't paying attention to Penelope.
Yeah. And also, she displays the same, there's a pattern with Eloise's behavior with her friends because she does the same thing to Cressida, right? And also,
Mm-hmm.
Eloise knew about that old man situation and also knew about the aunt coming to take Cressida away and doesn't even like try to. We didn't get a scene at least of her trying to understand. Or what was really uncharacteristic is that Colin goes to Cressida's house to persuade Cressida, which doesn't make sense. It would make more sense if Eloise, her former friend, would try to persuade Cressida. And did Eloise even tell Colin and Penelope about Cressida's situation? Why she's trying to blackmail?
Yeah, honestly, there was a world where they could have talked it out with Cressida and found a way to resolve her situation.
Yeah, because Cressida, even with just Colin, who she's completely unattached to and doesn't, they have nothing to do with each other. Cressida was wavering, but ultimately decides not to and gets sent away.
Yeah. It's honest, it's kind of sad. I hope they do like a redemption because I was starting to like her as a character and I really do sympathize with her. So,
Yeah, right. Oh, also, Francesca debuts in the season,
oh
right?
yeah, let's talk about Francesca. I
Francesca, my girlie. I have you go ahead.
Francesca is like if a me became animated as a person.
Yeah,
She's so
yeah. Francesca is who like audience is, right? Which
she's so
and
boring.
I think that's why people said that. Yeah, I found her so boring in season one, but I ended up understanding her in sorry, not season one, part one. But I ended up understanding and like really liking her in because she goes through like an arc to character development too. Though it's subtle, she stands up for herself.
Well, it's because I actually think that that's one of the things that they did well in this season is in part one they did make her so boring. And then you can see as she starts to sort of break out of her shell with John, with Lord Kilmartin, she sort of becomes more forceful. She speaks up for what she wants, and you learn a little bit more about her as a person. And I actually do like her a lot by the time the season ends because she's so consistent, I think.
Yeah, Francesca and Lord Kilmartin quickly, it's part two, become my favorite characters because they're unproblematic and they're also unproblematic as a couple. They just want to live a life together.
Yeah.
Like, truly, they're so wholesome. I love them. I'm sorry, but I love them.
The only thing that I did not like about Lord Kilmartin is that he never wants to stand up for his girl, but then at the very end they have that like dance scene where he brings her out onto the dance floor even though it's not like normal.
The thing is, I don't mind that because he shares the same personality as Francesca. He too isn't very outspoken, and you can see that they make a point of showing that he's very awkward in conversation. And like the other Bridgertons, when they're having a Francesca's the one who's like, "Oh, Lord Kilmartin, tell this story about blah blah blah," and he's very awkward about it and stuff. So I get that.
Yeah.
And like Francesca, obviously now she had by then developed the ability to stand up for herself, so I was fine with it.
Yeah, I think their love story was very sweet, but how it ends.
Okay, wait, before that, I do want to address that, but before that, I want to this is related. I want to talk about Mama Bridgerton,
Oh my God.
Lady Bridgerton, the mother. You see, I'd already not really liked her honestly in the previous seasons, and this season I don't like her at all. She was terrible to Francesca because the Mama Bridgerton believes that love should be passionate and didn't approve of Lord Kilmartin's and Francesca's relationship, even though she was all about finding a love match, and she would push aside Francesca and disregard what she wanted. And it wasn't even out of a concern about Lord Martin's personality or character or whatever. It was just because they didn't have the love that she wanted to see. And I found that so annoying. And I found that her behavior towards Francesca it sucked.
Okay. I have the exact opposite opinion. I'm usually with you on these things, but for me,
Fascinating. Tell me.
I kind of understand as a fellow introvert, I kind of understand the mindset of when you put two introverts together, if they don't make each other talk or come out of their own shell, it can be kind of a concern because I think in Mama Bridgerton's mind, Francesca has always been a little bit quiet and shy. And so she's always hoping that she feels more comfortable. And I think she struggled to see that with Lord Kilmartin, where they both stay quiet. Neither one of them brings out the best in the other from her point of view, but she never actively opposes them. Like she doesn't like it very clearly.
Oh, she does. When Francesca says that I want to tell the queen during that ball scene in the Mondriches.
Right, but she doesn't stop it though. The reason that she doesn't want to go talk to the queen, I think, is justified where the queen is a very sharp person. She's going to notice if I'm not 100% about this. I want to make sure that she's in a good mood.
No, but I didn't see it like that. She wasn't doing it like that. She just did it because she wanted to push off Kilmartin's and Francesca's
I don't know
marriage.
All we have is her reasoning of what she said, right?
No, I think because that's how I see it. And also, she snaps at Francesca at one point.
Yeah, and also from Francesca's point of view, like she's asking her mother for a favor, right? Like if she really felt 100% about him, she should have found the courage to go talk to the queen herself. She and Kilmartin are pushing that on Violet Bridgerton, like, you need to go talk to her for us. So if she's hesitant, and eventually, I mean, that's what happens. Like Francesca is the one who goes, like, finds the courage to talk to the queen, which I think is where it should be. But I also don't think it's fair of her to put so much on her mother.
But the thing is, it's not so much on her mother because her mother is close to Lady Danbury, who's close to the queen. Like, it's not that much of a... The Bridgertons were clearly the favorite.
But she's not like... If she was besties with the queen, I would understand. But like...
She's not besties with the queen, but she's closer to the rest... closer to the queen than, like, the rest of the ton, right? She's besties with the bestie of the queen, you know? Like, it's not that hard of a leap. And it's not that much pressure on Violet. Violet's not doing anything.
Well, I mean, but she's not 100% about
Like,
the
how
relationship.
much-
I mean, I think it's okay to not be 100% on the person that, you know, your kid is dating. I mean, I can see it, right? Because
No, but the thing is, she said it herself that she had no problem with Lord Kilmartin. She said that. She just said that, and this is like an actual line in the show that like she says at the end when she like finally realizes or whatever. She's like, I didn't really approve or whatever of their relationship because I didn't see the passionate love I saw with my what I saw with my husband, and my Kate and Anthony had a passionate relationship. Daphne and Simon had a really passionate relationship. So she's like, I just didn't see that spark or that passion. And she's like, okay. And then at the end, she's like, but I understand that not all like relationships
right.
are.
And the thing is, I just feel like she's entitled to have that opinion, and honestly, it's a point in her favor that her character does change overall, where she's like, okay, well, I understand there's a different way of living.
Yeah, I do like that she understands, but it's like in the last scene that their wedding. That
maybe it's because I'm used to parents who will loudly express their opinion and like get angry. I think that she was incredibly patient with Francesca when she felt like Francesca was making a mistake from her point of view. And even though she was hesitant to talk to the queen, she never says no, right? She never says like, I will not talk to her. She just says, I'm waiting for the right time.
I mean, but it was essentially she's not gonna say no to her daughter like that. Like she's not gonna say straight up no. But that was essentially saying like I don't really want to.
And you know, and that's valid. That's her valid opinion. They want a favor from her. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I
I don't know, man.
honestly do feel like Mama Bridgerton drops the ball a lot in terms of being there for her kids. Like her thrusting a whole bunch of responsibility on Anthony when he was not ready for it, and not being there for him when he really needed her, I think was real rough season 2. Her not explaining to Daphne what the f is up when she goes off to get married, and being like throwing a bunch of metaphor. Like, I think she has really like dropped the ball a lot as a mother. But I just don't feel like Francesca is one of those things.
Okay. I think she definitely fumbled hard with Francesca. She got back onto her feet, but the thing is, I wouldn't have been as annoyed and frustrated with Violet if not for she was happily pursuing her own love line. And you know what? That's fine. You know, I'm in support of that. But she was sort of like directly after scenes with Francesca of her like being a little shady towards Francesca. We would have a scene with Violet's love line, her new love line. And so that was a little annoying to me. Like, of course she should pursue her own love. That's whatever. I don't care about that. It's just that right after doing that for Francesca.
It's another one of those things where I feel like they just did not have time for that storyline. I feel like that was kind of wasted screen time. I think that because I thought that what they're going to do is by setting that love story up, they're setting for another in between season of maybe Violet's backstory with her husband and then her moving on with Lady Danbury's brother. But I think that they could have done that in the new season instead of wasting screen time on both her relationship with that guy and Lady Danbury's relationship on that guy, when there's so many other things going on that we need to resolve, you know? But back to Francesca. So you want to talk about that ending?
That ending, right? At like like Michelle, like who are you, girl? Literally, I haven't read the books, right? So at like the last ball or something. No, you explain it. I think you have better.
Yeah. So for context, during Francesca's wedding, with it, we keep saying Lord Kilmartin. Apparently his name is John Sterling or whatever. But during the kiss during the ceremony, Francesca kind of makes a face like it maybe wasn't what she was expecting. And then there's a scene where she's taking Eloise with her to Scotland because they're moving to Scotland.
Wait, but she makes a face? I thought it was just like a
Yeah,
little.
she makes a face. They kiss, and then she makes a face like maybe she didn't like it that much.
Oh dear.
They introduce Lord Kilmartin's cousin, Michelle, and as soon as Francesca meets Michelle, she has that like love-struck moment her mom's talking about where all of a sudden she's like stuttering, she can't remember her own name, like she is very clearly smitten by this woman.
Okay. Oh,
So they're clearly
whoa.
setting up for a
Can we
story.
pause for a moment? Because that is not what I was. What I thought that I was wondering. Oh, I guess I just didn't catch. Wow, I cannot catch a hint apparently because I just thought that.
What did you think happened?
No, I just thought that suddenly Francesca, for some reason, which she never did before, but I thought she was just suddenly feeling shy because it was a family member of Kilmartin's. And I just thought the cousin was just giving off a weird vibe. I thought she would try to come in between. Like she just didn't like Francesca. Oh my gosh. That's what it was? That's what it was?
Nah, bruh. So, for an additional layer of context, the way, as I understand it, the way that Francesca's book goes is that she marries Lord Kilmartin, and 2 years into their relationship, he dies, and so she ends up with a man named Michael Sterling, who is, I think, the cousin still. All they did was swap the gender and introduce her early into the story. So we see a Michelle instead of a Michael. Um, but that is her partner.
Fascinating.
Like per the books,
You
that's her
know,
partner.
I definitely thought that Michelle would get in between the relationship, but not like that. I thought she just didn't like Francesca for some reason. Or like interesting. Fascinating. I thought she just gave off really weird.
When she first showed up, I thought that she was there for Eloise. I was like, "Ooh, are we seeing like Eloise's future path?" Because you know I fucking hate Sir Philip Crane,
No,
but
forget about that. I thought Cressida and Eloise would be.
yeah, or that. Honestly, I would be so down for that. So that's what I was expecting. But then for it to switch and be Francesca, I was like, "Oh,
Okay, so I
interesting."
have so much to think about. I have to reflect upon myself. So interesting. I did not catch that. That is so interesting. I'll need to rewatch that scene because
Okay, so with that in your mind now, how do you feel about the scene?
I'm a little taken aback because that was pretty like that was not what I was expecting at all. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish that like I knew that John dies or Kilmartin dies 2 years later. I knew that, but I didn't know anything else. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say on it.
A lot of people were upset.
Yeah, I don't know because they went through so much work to be together, and then right as they resolve that, like 10 seconds after, like this happens, it's a little annoying.
Yeah, I think that they could have maybe hinted at it better and maybe not had Francesca have such a strong reaction where it feels like she doesn't love John anymore. I do think that so some people were upset because for the first time it felt like we were seeing a different kind of relationship on this show where it doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
sort of loud and in your face and like your whole life is like changed, just struck by lightning, instead of like a quiet sort of reserved beautiful kind of love. And to throw that all away with this new character where it feels like, oh well, here we go again. Francesca is like, you see in that moment like she's, flushed and like she's stuttering because she's so smitten. It's like, oh well, it's another one.
Yeah, I did not catch the spitting. Huh.
I feel like we need to pull the scene up right now for you to watch it.
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever been more bamboozled.
Hang on, hang on. We can cut this
Yeah.
out. Let me pull up the scene. Let me pull up the scene. Hang on. Oh, is it Michaela? It may have been Michaela instead of Michelle. Oops. It doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm glad I did watch that. I'm glad we rewatched that.
Yeah.
I'm a new woman now.
So yes. So Michaela, not Michelle. But you see it now.
I do see it now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest. I do think it's a little sad that they're kind of undercutting John and Francesca's relationship, but at the same time, I feel like this could be really cute. So
Yeah. But I'm sad. I liked John and Francesca. They were the most unproblematic couples. That's so annoying. Not one unproblematic couple.
I think there is an argument to be made that maybe it wasn't necessarily love that she felt for John. It was more like finding a place and a person who understands how quiet and reserved she is and like letting her be herself.
Oh, I said this before in like the beginning of the season. I said that I feel like Francesca is better off friends than like a lover or a wife to Kilmartin, to Lord Kilmartin. I feel like they're friends. I never got anything romantic from them. So it kind of did. I actually was shocked when they announced they were courting because I thought they were just being besties. But it was them actually like courting each other. I was like, oh, might be. So now it does make sense. Now like it bamboozles me and it validates my thoughts at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it'll just be interesting to see where it's like from now. I think there's going to be a bunch of drama. I'm into it. Let's get to Francesca's season. Also, the actress who plays Francesca is so beautiful.
So pretty.
Do you want to briefly? I do want to briefly, really talk about Kate and Anthony this season. They were kind of irrelevant, which is sad, but
Right. We can just say they were there for fan service, which is fine. I liked it. But the thing is, there was so much else going on that like I couldn't quite like put my attention on it. But
yeah.
right, she's pregnant and they go to India, so that's what happens. Yay. But okay, like dipping out of season 3. See, I love Kate, but at the same time, she did Edwina so dirty. I mean, Edwina's now living happily with a prince somewhere else. I'm sad we didn't get to see Edwina. I'm sorry, Edwina is also our unproblematic queen. So, like, she just excused her sister like that, which is queen behavior from Edwina. But, yeah.
I mean, it all worked out.
Yeah, it worked out in the end.
Okay. There's one other plot line that I think is worth talking about. I don't want to talk about the Mondriches because it was fine, but we really did not have time.
They didn't really have a plot line. I don't know why they were carried over.
Yeah. Let's talk about the bisexual disaster in the most affectionate
Truly
way.
a disaster.
I think the main reason for Benedict's sort of relationship thing going on was, I think, a little bit of spicy service to the fans because we only got, I think, one real full spicy scene with Colin. So I felt like there was some unnecessary like shots of Benedict, which we didn't necessarily need because
I'm gonna be so real. I could care less. I could care less.
Yeah.
I had other things to focus on. And they kept intercutting these scenes with like the scene where Penelope is being blackmailed and stuff. And I'm like, it's just not the time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care for this. It was an irrelevant plotline. I didn't want it to happen. I would have skipped past the scenes. But yeah, it was really annoying. I didn't care.
Long story short, Benedict has a threesome and now he's bisexual. Like,
no, but and then the person who offered to him, who made the offer, is like, wait, actually, I kind of like you a lot, so I don't want to share you anymore. So that's really confusing for Benedict. And I'm like, poor dude. He was, because he initially was super hesitant about it and didn't really want to do it, but he was kind of pushed into it. I mean, he made the decision on his own because he's an adult, but he was kind of pushed into it. But yeah. Oh well.
I mean, okay, so they had been kind of hinting about his sexuality a little bit from season 1 even.
Yeah, but that's not a surprise. I hate that he discovered it in this way.
Yeah, I think there was a better way to approach that.
It was dumb.
Yes. They could have done it better. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I am happy that we did get some like an Eloise and Benedict scenes because I do like their relationship because I feel like they're similar.
Yes, that was really cute. Honestly, they have one of the best relationships on the show. So Okay, so as we sort of close our discussion on season 3, the show, let's talk about the big conclusion with the Lady Whistledown reveal to the entire, society.
Right.
I think that was really dumb.
Me too. It was kind of cringe too.
I think there was a world where they maybe just revealed it to the queen, and the queen put a stop to Cressida and they called it a day. I think there's a world where Penelope claims the reward money from the queen, pays Cressida, and then sends her off on her way. I think it was really, really dumb in terms of plot development for the future seasons for Penelope to reveal it to everyone, even though that's what happens in the books. So I don't know if they were trying to stay consistent, but I think the way that the story was developing, there was no need.
Yeah, and also if if Penelope had paid Cressida, but I have to say Cressida doubled the amount and they said they didn't have that money. But ignoring that, if Penelope had paid Cressida, then I think that would have been best case scenario because then Cressida she would get to run away and then Bridgertons are not affected. And then
Yeah.
also we would keep Julie Andrews' voice. Julie Andrews would still be narrating
Yeah.
because Penelope didn't reveal herself. So that would be
I think it can be interesting how they deal with the struggle of Penelope figuring out how to write her column with everybody knowing who she is. Logistically, I don't even think that's possible.
yeah,
But
I don't know like how like these people are just okay. And also it's just gossip. Like it's truly not it's not a big deal, but it's the biggest deal at the same time, right? In the town. But like Penelope said at one
yeah.
point that a lot of people are not happy with what she wrote, so now she has a lot of enemies.
Yeah. Her revealing to the Ton doesn't make sense because people are going to be angry. Her being able to write the column after this is not going to make sense because she's not going to be a wallflower anymore. People are going to make sure not to have discussions with her within earshot. They're going to be careful around her. Like, there's so much of it that just didn't make sense.
She had a line where she said she's going to wield her pen more cautiously or something. So I don't know what that means. Like, is she planning to write for like a different cause? Or is she. There was one Whistledown issue where she like exposes an abusive husband or something, and that helps the wife, right? Because it's now publicized, and the wife has like more power or something now. There's like a scene, and so like, does she mean in that way, or is she gonna write something different? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe this will be something that actually adds another layer of, drama to the story. Maybe it's a really cool thing for her character. I really do hope that this isn't the end of Penelope because I think she's maybe the most interesting character on the show. So just because her season is out of the way.
Yeah. Speaking of, I think this is a good transition. The next season, who is it going to be about? Eloise, Benedict, Francesca.
Oh, it's gonna be Benedict because from the scene where they're sitting on the swings and talking, or at least I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Benedict because they talk about the masquerade ball, and apparently that's where Benedict meets his partner is during the masquerade ball.
Oh, I thought it might be Francesca because they're kind of setting it up like that too. Or maybe they're setting it up as they can send her away to like time skip to another season.
Yeah, I wonder if they're ever gonna do a season about Francesca or if they're just going to leave it in the background of the other characters' seasons. I'm honestly most curious as to what they're going to do for Eloise's season because I think that her book no longer works.
It's like, yeah, I don't know. A lot of things will have to happen in order. Her book is so irrelevant now. Like, it just.
Yeah. So actually talking a little bit more about the book because I have a lot to say about this book. Eloise's character is completely different in the book, at least from the glimpses that you see in this story because she is still Penelope's best friend in the book. Her character is so reserved. It's so like she's nosy, but she's not, strong or sort of what's the word? She's not a revolutionary as far as I can tell. Like her main thing is Colin gets really angry at one point because he thinks that Eloise is Whistledown and he's convinced about it. And it's because he knows that she sort of like seeks out information about other people. But her character is so unbelievably different in the show that I just don't see a world where she willingly gets married to Philip Crane. And I also don't think it's fair to yank Marina out of the story after developing her as a character, which they don't do in the books at all.
Yeah, Marina is a little irrelevant. I mean, she's a lot irrelevant. She's like she not even a hint. I mean, maybe like a little hint when they're talking about how Whistledown wronged Colin and Eloise or whatever. But
Oh, but she's utterly not even a character in the books as far as I know. Like she never interacts with them, I think.
right, because she dies, right?
She dies and she leaves her kids, and Eloise takes care of them, and that's why Philip marries her. And the book is really gross and it's really stupid, and I really don't think they can do it anymore. This might just be a rumor, but I read somewhere that one of the author's stipulations was that every character has to end up with who they end up with in the books, but I really hope they change that.
Mm. I mean, they change so much in the shows that, like, even if they do end up with the people in the books, like, they're completely different characters, and like how they got there are completely different, anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah, they need to do a lot of like careful writing, which they very clearly aren't doing. So, oh, but so book 3. I like I said, I really did not like this season until I read the book. And when I read the book, I realized that this season must have been incredibly difficult to write because the book has so very little. Like truly there is almost nothing to this book, and everyone saying that Colin is bland and has more personality in the book than the show is wrong because book Colin has a personality. His personality is asshole. Have you seen that clip of the guy talking about how he didn't grow up with sisters? So it wasn't until he had a girlfriend in high school, or not high school, in college, that he discovered that women are people too, and they have like their own thoughts and feelings, and basically discovers empathy for the first time. Have you seen that clip?
No, I don't want to, and I have a lot to say on that, but I won't.
That's basically Colin as a character. Is he does not register that Penelope is a person with her own thoughts and feelings until they start like falling in love a little bit. Colin is
That is
so
crazy. Because Colin is the exact opposite in the show. He's like super
yes.
compassionate, right? He's really sweet.
Yes. Like book Colin made me appreciate show Colin. Colin is so misogynistic in the books. Like so misogynistic. He will constantly needle Eloise about getting married when nobody else is. And it's like, leave her alone.
Mm.
And also, he is borderline physically abusive. Like, I sent you the passage where he grabs Penelope's arm so hard that he bruises her when she reveals the Whistledown. It's the same as the show where she publishes an issue of Whistledown, basically saying that Cressida is not her. There's also a scene where he confronts her in a church and like basically forces her to stay there and talk to him because she can't escape him. There's a scene in the beginning where he thinks that Eloise is Whistledown, so he grabs her and forces her into her room to confront her.
It's all just so icky.
It's so icky. He gets very angry. He says a couple times that I'm gonna kill her, which listen,
Kill Whistledown?
no, kill Penelope because he's so angry. He's like, I'm furious. I'm going to kill her, right?
Fascinating. That's so
Which
bad.
it could be like a joke, like, oh, I'm going to kill you, right? Like I've said that to people. right? I'm set it on recording to you.
His previous behavior in the book does not indicate that it's a joke.
No, and the passages surrounding it don't indicate that it's a joke. Like, at some points, I'm afraid for Penelope. Like, he is often yelling at the other women. Like, he'll yell at Eloise, he'll yell at Penelope, he'll yell at his mother sometimes. Well, not often. But he will yell at Penelope's mother, but he will not do that to any of the men in the book. And I think that's telling.
Man, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, and they absolutely had no choice but to rewrite the entire, like, they had no
Yes.
choice. Like, they can't put that on television in this day and age.
No. And
I mean,
there's
ever,
a part,
but, like, especially now.
he's like emotionally abusive a little bit because it's the same as the show. And I think, unfortunately, that's another thing that the show sort of drops the ball on, is he struggles with being jealous of Penelope. But in the books, he lets Penelope think that he's ashamed of her being Whistledown. Like, he knows she has low self-esteem. He lets her continue to feel bad about herself because he doesn't want to admit to her that he's jealous of her. So basically, I
How
hate
did you
Colin.
read the book?
It was
Dude, how
rough.
did you get through the book?
It was rough. And they did a lot of things in this book that I think the show handled better, because like we talked about, I didn't like the scene where Penelope reveals to everybody that she's Whistledown. But at least Penelope was the one to make that choice. In the book, Colin basically puts his foot down, is like, you are done being Whistledown. But then he comes to the decision that the only way to move forward is to announce to the world that she's Whistledown. He literally says the line, I have made a decision. And he is the one that, like,
I hate that.
brings her up on stage and,
You
like,
know I hate
announces
that.
to everybody, like, hey, my wife is Whistledown. I'm like, brother, that's not your call to make. Like,
Book Colin needs to go to jail.
dude, book Penelope is not great either. Book Penelope gives strong, like, I'm not like other girls. Like, I understand that she is insecure about her physical appearance, but I think that's something that the show also does a couple times, and it's a mindset that I don't love. Of, in order to make your character interesting, in order for a character to be smart, there has to be that comparison that she is not the standard of other women. And they do it a lot with Eloise, where it's like, oh, women in general are just obsessed with their looks. They're obsessed with their, like, meaningless hobbies, and they're obsessed with getting married. There's nothing going on there. This character is cool and interesting because she's smart, unlike women as a whole. It's a mindset that I think is incredibly toxic and misogynistic, and it does not make for a better character. It makes your character kind of a whiny brat. And Penelope does that a lot. She has zero agency. Like, there's exactly one time where she doesn't do what Colin wants her to do, and that's, he tells her not to publish the issue about Cressida being not Whistledown, and she does it anyway because she can't stand Cressida. Otherwise, she is so happy to do whatever Colin wants just because she's so grateful that he loves her, and I think that's really done. Basically, anyone who says that the books are better than the show deserves to be shot.
They need some help, is what they need.
Yes, truly. The only thing that the book did that I wish the show had done is they developed this relationship between Lady Danbury and Penelope, which I think is very sweet, where Lady Danbury realizes, oh, people are overlooking her, but Penelope is really smart and, like, clever and just cool in general. They sort of do that with the whole Lady Danbury walking up to her in the last episode and being like, oh, I knew it was you because you're the only person who loves the Bridgertons that much to write such good things about them. But there was more of a relationship in the books. Literally every other character sucks. And even book Lady Danbury kind of sucks because, like, she's a very exaggerated version of herself where it's all just afraid, crotchety old woman instead of the girl boss that we know her as.
Yes. And Lady Danbury is a girl boss.
Anyway, that's all I have to say about the book. Like, literally realizing that they had nothing to draw from made me realize that, okay, that's maybe why it was so hard for them to write season 3, because truly there is no plot.
Yeah, it's understandable why 2 years are warranted for the next season now that I'm listening to this.
maybe the other books are more interesting. Maybe it's like just because at least for the first book, I really, really, really hated The Duke and I because Simon is an abusive.
Ashhold.
Starting to think that Julia Quinn kind of just writes her men exactly the same as misogynistic.
Ashhold.
I think that's a problem with
Mhm.
Regency in general. I've read a couple Regency romances now, and I think that something authors do a lot is they think, okay, well, this is old timey, thus misogyny exists, as if it doesn't exist now, and every male character has to continuously remind the female character that she is a woman. She should not be alone on her own. She must submit to him because he is the husband and he is the man and he must possess her. It's like, we get it. We get it. It doesn't make me like your character more because, believe it or not, even in that time period, there were people who didn't think this way. Crazy! I think that's what the Bridgerton books suffer from as well. Anyway, that's my rant. My rant is over.
But you're right about that pattern of Regency and men. Yeah. You're incredible for reading the books. Oh my gosh, the commitment.
I just had to know because I was seeing so much discourse online about how book Colin has more personality and show Colin is boring. Show Colin isn't boring. He's just nice.
Mm.
Well, actually, to be fair, I did think he was boring. I thought he was boring before I read the books, and I was like, you know what? Actually, this is better. This is a step up.
Boring is good. Boring is good.
Boring is better than sexist. But yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about Bridgerton as a whole or season 3?
Season 3, Penelope looks so good. Penelope looks so beautiful. That's all I want to say.
She's
Penelope
so gorgeous.
looks gorgeous. Truly, every scene she was in, I was like, damn. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
That's kind of another problem that I had is, it's very famous that the actress who plays Penelope looks much younger than she is. But I think part of the problem for me is that the actor who plays Colin also looks too young to me in the series, where it kind of felt like a romance between kids. And so it's wild to me that they get married and have a kid at the end. But that's just me.
Oh, I forgot about the kids, right? They have babies. But no, I just thought Penelope was too hot for Colin. In the show.
Yeah, kind of same.
Right.
They kept trying to make a point like, why does he love her? And I'm like, she is so out of his league.
Why does she love him?
Yeah. So we usually end with low expectations, but I think our low expectation here is just for the next season. I'm hoping that it's better. I really hope that Netflix doesn't do the same part 1, part 2 thing because I think that really killed season 3 for me. I'm waiting for an in-between Lady Bridgerton season. So
I think we predicted, or we're thinking that there'll be an in-between season where Violet and we get the backstory with it, Violet and her husband, her dead husband.
And honestly, I think it's about time because she makes such a big deal about how awesome her husband is. Like, let's see it.
Right? I'm like, at this point, we have to get story now. She's been telling us about it.
Yeah. But I think that wraps up our Bridgerton discussion for now. Catch us again in 2 years when season 4 comes out. But thanks everybody for listening. You can follow us.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at lessthanadaypod, and you can email us at lessthanadaypod@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Storygraph and Goodreads. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.